Not me, but my husband. Let me preface by saying that he's very smart, but has never been the type to go the extra mile as it concerns academics. Apparently when he was in high school, he had a science class that he considered a joke. In general, he got along very well with his teachers, but he did not like or have much respect for this teacher. Don't remember why. Regardless, the teacher wasn't exactly a dynamic instructor. Her lessons generally consisted of regurgitating the textbook via PowerPoint and then asking the students to answer the questions at the end of the section and turn them in the next day. My husband never paid attention. He'd read or do work for another class. He always turned his assignments in on time though, and had an A in the class. One day the teacher called him out for his behavior, stating that he needed to pay attention and do the work for her class. If he was in there the next day, he dropped a massive stack of papers on her desk. He'd answered every single question in the entire book, essentially doing all his work for the rest of the year. All he said was, "Will you leave me alone now?" and returned to his desk with a book. She stared at him with her mouth open and never said another word to him again. Side note, I taught high school for 3 years. If a student had done this to me, my blood would have boiled, and thankfully my husband learned to have a little more tact as he got older. Hey Reddit, first time poster. English is my first language, etc. So this story involves my great grandfather Luke. Luke was a farmer from a small Missouri town. When he was a young man, he met Mary, the woman who would eventually become his wife and my great grandmother, before they were wed. When he was doing his wooing, direct quote, he said to my dad and his brothers, he was invited over to Mary's house for dinner, and so he could meet her parents. Mary's father isn't really involved in this story from what I understand, so I won't give him a name, but her mother, Elle, very much is. During the dinner, as Luke, Mary, and Elle made small talk and ate, Luke decided he wanted a biscuit. They had been placed directly next to Elle, so Luke decided to ask his future mother-in-law for one. But instead of politely asking her for one, Luke decides to show his sense of humor and says this, "Throw me a biscuit, Elle." Yes, he said biscuit, however that's spelled. I don't remember the exact reaction of everyone at the table, but I'm sure Mary was quite mortified. Elle, on the other hand, didn't miss a beat. Luke wanted her to throw him a biscuit, so she did. She picked up a biscuit and threw it directly at him. Luke and Mary were wed not long after, and Luke never spoke to his mother-in-law like that again. Mandatory on mobile. Also, this isn't my story but my mom's. This story takes place back to when my mom was in high school working at a Dairy Queen. She was working the grill. While her coworker was at the drive-thru, a guy orders a double cheeseburger and then asks to put everything on it. The coworker explained what everything was at the time: lettuce, tomato, onion, and pickles with condiments. The guy explains that's not what he meant and raises his voice. "I said I want everything, so you better give me everything." The coworker calls him to the window and the manager again explains to him what everything was and repeats what coworker said. The guy who just ordered is now getting pissed for no reason and is just being an absolute dick. At the point, mom drops the guy's bag to be handed to him and hears the guy starting to cuss at her manager. The guy eventually cuts the manager off and yells, "Just give me everything you have back there." The manager slams the window and takes the order to the back with my mom right behind. Mom is told to grab whatever food she can find and to put on the burger. She doesn't remember everything as this was over 2 decades ago, but it had chili, horseradish, chicken, bacon, and then a full hand of pickles for good measure. Pretty much take a look at the menu back then, and they made sure it was on the burger, everything except for ice cream. Mom and her manager looked at each other with a grin on their face. They needed 3 sheets just to even wrap it. The manager then walked the order out to the guy himself and told him to enjoy. I guess the guy didn't like it as he never came back. TL. Dr. Guy order a burger and demands everything gets put on it. Gets nearly the entire menu thrown on it. My first year as a teacher, I worked in one of the largest schools still left, and Nick, our bosses were jerks. Teachers are required to have a lesson plan every day, but nowhere required it like this school. They wanted them printed out and posted by the door every day. They'd come by and pick them up occasionally, and if they didn't like you and your lesson, they'd come observe you and give you a hard time. Now, Nick has a rule that says the bosses can't tell you a specific format for how the lesson plans are written or where to write them, so could be digital like a Google Doc, written in a book, typed out and printed, or it could be written in ketchup on a pizza box. One coworker who was sick of my boss's poop and on her last year in the system duct taped her plan to the door, written in ketchup on a pizza box. She is my hero. She said it took a lot longer than just typing it out, but she was sick of so much nonsense that she needed to make a point. So my dad makes me pay $800 a month to live with him. It's the same price as a good apartment where I live, and I always pay on time at the end of July. I paid the $800 for August, and he set the money behind the TV. I got in an argument with my dad, and he starts getting heated. He tells me that I didn't pay rent, and if I don't do 3 hours of yard work every day this month, then he'll call the police and burn all my things. So, as he suggested, I get my boots and work gloves on, take the non-existent rent money from behind the TV, and started working. I love yard work, by the way, so this was a steal of a deal for me. Later that night, I heard him throwing a fit because he lost the rental money, and now my mom is mad at him. He's always taking advantage of my kindness, and he's always trying to find out how to get the next dollar out of me. Edit. Thank you all for the responses. It has really helped me figure out my future plans, and you all have motivated me to move out. I live 15 miles from town, and all I have is a car to move out with. I'll try saving up for a rental truck and all the necessities to live by myself. I'm not sure that this post qualifies, as it didn't end well for me. Back when I was in high school, I used to go to a Roman Catholic school here in the UK. We had a rather irate religious education teacher. One Friday, we were set homework to write 2 to 3 pages describing world religions, as if we had just discovered the planet as an alien. I set to work and wrote it out on the Friday evening, then had a thought. If I were writing this from the perspective of aliens, then it wouldn't be in English. Foolish me. I came up with a symbol for each letter of the alphabet and rewrote the entire thing with these symbols. Monday morning rolls around, and I handed it in with a decoder, of course. I ended up in detention for 2 days. I also understand I probably wasted that teacher's time when they just wanted to read and grade, but part of me wanted to get some kind of credit for the extra effort. Oh well. Sometimes compliance isn't all roses. Obligatory apology for formatting on mobile. This happened a few weeks back. I had my mid-year exams for literature and had to write an essay on Julius Caesar, which my class was tasked to read. My teacher stated that we were only allowed to bring a one-sided piece of handwritten notes as references. She also warned us that anyone that did not meet the criteria would automatically have their reference sheet confiscated and had to write the essay without anything from the book, basically making it impossible to pass. Thing is, she only told us the references had to be handwritten a day before the exam, which meant my notes had to be completely rewritten. I wasn't too happy with this, as I didn't feel like taking 2 hours transferring everything I've written. Then I realized there was a huge loophole. She specified the notes had to be one-sided and handwritten, but did not specify the size of paper. I ended up getting an A2 sized piece of poster board and basically copied the entire book over, plus analysis for every single scene. Took me a whole 3 hours, but it was worth it. The next day I went to class holding the poster board and sat down for the test. My teacher lost her poop, basically tried to issue me a conduct slip on the spot and give me a 0. Unfortunately for her, she set the requirements herself, and so technically I wasn't cheating. Somehow I was the only person in class who thought of this, and I basically got a free year on my report. Since I essentially had my entire essay already written, my teacher couldn't fail me and had to give me an A. Got a bunch of laughs from my classmates as well, because the poster board was so big they could easily copy off it from behind without getting in trouble. TLDR, teacher specified we were only to bring a single sheet of notes for an exam. I filled an A2 sized poster board. Edit. Wow, my first award. Thank you, kind Redditor. For my first office job, I worked in a department of 15 to 20 people with a boss who was very chill and really only cared that the work got done. His assistant, however, was a real stickler for all the rules. The divergent attitude split the staff a bit, and the office was a bit cliquish. Because of the boss didn't care much, 1 hour lunch breaks pretty routinely became an hour and 10 or an hour and 15 minutes. That all changed when he left the department and his assistant took over. One of her first moves was to crack down on the late lunches, not her clique. However, her clique included a lot of smokers who always took their 2 15-minute breaks daily, once before lunch and once in the late afternoon. The other clique, including me, did not smoke, so we never used that time for anything but work. Once the crackdown memo on the lunches went out, we hatched our petty revenge plan for the next day. 10:30 in the morning, the late lunch clique all stood up from our desks and walked outside to the picnic table smoking area. Naturally, the new boss was hot under the collar, but there's nothing that she could do about our now to break in 30 minutes per day breaks, mandated by law. Congratulations, new boss, you saved the company 10 minutes from my late lunch, but ultimately cost it 20 for my smoke breaks. I'm a software developer. A co-worker of mine started out as a contractor. When his contract was over, we decided to hire him on as a full-time employee. He wanted to stay, and we knew he does great work. Hiring him was a no-brainer, except ours absolutely insisted that we cannot possibly commit to hiring someone until he's been through the interview process. So we interviewed him at a restaurant, with the meal being paid with the boss's corporate credit card. The interview went something like this. Interviewer: so, what do you think of Java as a programming language? Interviewee: it's not bad. Interviewer: cool, you're hired. It's been a crazy beautiful day today, and as such we've been going out of town by train in the Netherlands. We have a law that you have to wear a face mask in any form of public transport now. Even though our country is small, that doesn't mean train rides are short, relatively speaking, and with the blazing heat going on, we were wise to bring in some drinks along the way. And here is me opening my bottle and lifting my face mask up a bit to take a sip. Cue at this exact moment the train conductor coming along to check our boarding passes. That instantly slaps me on the hands for not having my face mask up while going for a single sip. Trying to explain them I were just going for a sip did not seem to bother him the slightest, and stressed to keep my mask on. Alright sir, I'll keep my mask on. The conductor went on towards the next passenger until in a split second his glare shot back to us. Immediately as the splotches of water fell on the floor, he stormed back towards us, beginning to lose their mind about splashing water all over the floor. I simply replied, I'm only doing as you asked. I'm keeping my face mask on. He did not like this answer, and we were sent off the train. Luckily, my friend is the kind of person that often sees interesting video-worthy moments arrive, and you can very much guess that he captured this moment just in case this would come backfire onto us, and to have laughs, of course. Edit. Apparently some people love to make random accusations without having even being there, so let me fill you in. No, the water was not into my mouth, nor did it touch it. Before it splashed to the ground, the mask was still on my face, and it was only a bit of water that hit the ground. I'm well aware about there being a pandemic, and did nothing to risk compromising the health of others. You've come only to post your blind accusations by using information that wasn't written or in any way known to you. Go somewhere else if you can't take a simple story. On mobile, sorry for formatting. This happened about 10 years ago. I'm now 24F. I was pretty fat back then and struggling to figure out health. Still am, but I'm better now. I'm in my health class in 8th grade and we finished watching Food Incorporated. Next we were watching Super Size Me. For those of you not aware, it's about a man who eats nothing except McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner to see how his health changes. When the movie ends and I get home, I tell my mom I don't want to eat McDonald's anymore because of the documentary. My original goal was just for 2 months. This would have already been a long time since I loved McDonald's and ate it once or twice a week, that I remember my mom offers to pay me $5 a month for doing so, even offering to extend it if I chose to continue. This is where my dad comes in. He knew how much I loved McDonald's and wasn't sure about my willpower, not in a bad way, but I was super impulsive and a bit of a binge eater back then. My dad didn't think I'd last a month and said those magical words, I'll give you $5 a week for every week you don't eat McDonald's. It was on. He's commending me for staying strong for the first month. Second month, he's pleasantly surprised, especially when a friend of mine tempted me with a bag of chicken nuggets. Third month, He gives me permission to have a cheat day. I said no, I'm getting money from both my mom and dad for months. He's handing off money every 2 weeks since he doesn't have much at times. After 6 months, my dad is begging me to stop because he was losing a lot of money on me for the McDonalds bet and another bet similar, $5 a week for each week without soda around the same time. Because I was nice, I took him off the hook and did a cheat day for soda, 3 Pepsis. I still drink soda, 1 or 2 a month, but haven't eaten McDonald's since.